With 2024... Tragedy has befallen me. With 2024 coming to a close, it is time to do our countdown of the best games of the year. Before we get to the countdown, though, let's take a look at some honorable mentions, and we'll do a quick recap on why I think these deserve some recognition as well. Now, while this is a longer Game of the Year countdown than I typically do, I do want to list off 5 honorable mentions, just real quick, games that I thought were spectacular and definitely deserve a look from folks. Anton Blast is a kinetic, frantic, and fun, over-the-top platformer where the entire object of the game is destruction. It plays incredibly well. This probably would have made it into the top 20 if I had a chance to play it a little bit more. It didn't release until mid-December, so I haven't put a ton of time into it yet. I think if this had come out in November, this probably would have broken into the top 20. Slam and Roll is a great single-screen arcade game that was beyond something I expected. It's a fantastic kind of take on like Snow Bros or Rainbow Islands, where you're using different characters that are sports-themed. It's really awesome. Victory Heat Rally is one of the best racing games I have played in a long time. It's fast, it's over the top, it's really fun, and it has some great controls and excellent, excellent track designs. For Retro Realms, both Ash vs. the Evil Dead and the Halloween game are spectacular. I hope this is a continuation and not something we're just going to see these 2 games from. I hope this is something that becomes a lifelong series and we see all kinds of fun games like this. I really, really appreciate platformers like this because they feel like they just stepped out of the 16-bit generation. They're incredible. Final one for honorable mention is Little Kitty Big City. I really like this game. There's a few rough edges on it that I think kind of knock it down for me, but the idea of being a cat that fell out of his window and you need to find your way back and you have to interact with all the different kind of crazy creatures and people in the city in order to be able to complete your quest to get home is pretty awesome. But that's just my honorable mentions. Let's go now to number 20, one of my favorite 3D platformers of the year. In at number 20 is Penny's Big Breakaway, and the thing that really puts this kind of head and shoulders above other 3D platformers that I've played lately is because it's just such a kinetic game. This game is all about locomotion. It's all about movement. It's all about fast-paced action and trying to control Penny and her yo-yo that you roll around on. It's really, really clever. You toss in the fact that this was created by the team behind Sonic Mania, and I just absolutely love it. It's a wonderful title. It's something that I don't think got enough recognition. It came out towards the start of the year, and I fear a lot of people overlooked it. It was featured on a Nintendo Direct back in 2023, but I think by the time it came out, people had just kind of forgotten about it, and that's a shame. It's definitely worth checking out, though. One of my favorite titles of the year. In at number 19 comes the best Mega Man X game I've ever played in Berserk Boy. Now, when I first played this, I really anticipated this being a lot further up on the countdown, but that should just really show you how many incredible games came out this year, because this game is such a loving throwback to those classic Mega Man X titles that released on the Super Nintendo that you just can't help but really, really enjoy it. But it's not just a tribute show. This is something that actually does its own thing and sets itself apart from Mega Man X by being a lot more approachable and having a significantly excellent set of gameplay mechanics that just all work in tandem and just work in harmony. It's such a fantastic title. I really love this one. I am shocked that I haven't seen more people talking about this one. It's an absolutely magnificent game, and I cannot thank John from Biddy Kong's Quest for suggesting it to me enough. At number 18 comes Jet Rider. Jet Rider was one of the games I reviewed early on in the year on my eShop Hidden Gems videos, and it's something that has stuck with me because a lot of those games that I review early in the year just kind of fizzle out. There's bigger games that come out that make me realize that things that I thought were going to be spectacular didn't really measure up in the grand scheme of things, but Jet Rider is not one of those titles. You take 1 part jetpack refueled and 1 part Gravatar and a healthy dose of a fantastic sense of humor, and you have Jet Rider. This is such a wonderful example of what games can be when they lean into humor, but make sure that that humor is all based around incredible, fantastic gameplay. It's a little bit Metroidvania too, because you're going all over the place and finding all different kinds of unlockables as you play. It's a wonderful title and something that I cannot suggest enough to people. One of my favorite experiences of the year was getting to play this. It's amazing what happens to a classic title when you put a fresh coat of paint on it and you involve one of my favorite developers. You make me care about it. It's really impressive. So, Yar's Revenge is one of those games that are classic 2600 experiences that just bypassed me. I was not a 2600 player when I was younger. It's the first system I ever played a game on, but it's not the one that hooked me. So I missed a lot of classic Atari 2600 games until much later in life, Yar's Revenge included. And by the time I was older and playing it, I had already played all kinds of stuff leading all the way up to today, as I've been playing from the NES to now. So when Yar's Rising got announced, I was a little skeptical, but I was happy to see Way Forward on something. And what they managed to do is they managed to make a really incredible Metroidvania and involved a reimagined version or a revisualized version of Yar's Revenge. Because as you play, you're playing Yar's Revenge to hack into different things. And I think that's just an incredibly clever take on it, because it's not something where that's the only gameplay element. It's a fantastic addition to a solid platformer with great way forward credentials that just make the game really stand out and make it really, really fun. It's a fantastic title and something that I was not expecting to enjoy as much as I do. But Yar's Rising is amazing. In at number 16 comes a game that I saw on a Nintendo Direct and I was intrigued by the concept, but it wasn't until my friend John Riggs played it and told me that it's Peggle mixed with a turn-based RPG that I was really, really excited to try this out. And Peglin is something that is just, it's such a great concept and it's executed almost flawlessly. So the idea isn't just Peggle meets an RPG, because there's also an element of Slay the Spire in play here, because as you go through the game, you're going to unlock different power-ups for the different balls you throw into the Peggle component that are going to operate differently and maybe do super bounces or just wipe out an entire line of stuff as you go through or cause an explosion, something like that. And those balls that you use down there are going to, in turn, impact the RPG element at the top, because the more pegs you hit, the more damage you're going to do. There's a lot of stuff in play here, and it's just fantastic. You're going to find different power-ups that you're going to be able to use. There's an entire map component where you're going to choose the path you take. I really, really love this one. I am just blown away by the fact that they were able to take something so simple in concept and turn it into something absolutely magical in its execution. Number 15 comes a game that I have waited years for, literally. Ever since it was announced on Kickstarter and the Kickstarter campaign ran, I was beyond excited for Ayuden Chronicles 100 Heroes, the latest game from the creator of the Suikoden series, who has unfortunately passed away since Ayuden Chronicles came out. And this game is almost perfect for me. I can see why it didn't get great reviews. It's definitely a throwback to classic JRPG tropes. It's very grindy. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of characters to recruit. So for me, this is a spectacular title, but I can see why some people didn't really dig it. Now, that's not to say it's not without its issues. There's definitely some bugs in play here. There's definitely some issues with just some kind of slog that you have to work your way through as the game progresses, but I really do love this one, and I'm so excited to have something in a kind of like mirror universe of the Suikoden series. So excited to have this one. I love it. It might not be for you, but for me, this is a spectacular title. Metal Slug fans were eating good this year, and in at number 14 comes Metal Slug Tactics. I was excited about this when I first saw it announced, and I'm so happy that what they were able to execute is not only a faithful interpretation of what Metal Slug would be were it a turn-based strategy game, it is a fantastic addition to that rich universe of just over-the-top run-and-gun shooters. I love this game. Like, there's nothing that betrays its origins. Like, all of the pixel work in it is spectacular. The gameplay is solid. Like, everything down to the different weapons that your characters use and the abilities that they have are true to things that we have played before in Metal Slug. It's just a different spin on it. It's a different angle to take the series, and I hope this leads to a resurgence of fantastic Metal Slug content. Like I said, we're eating good this year. We got a couple of Metal Slug titles, and they were both excellent. This is just the one I happen to prefer. If you dig Metal Slug, and if you especially are a fan of turn-based strategy games, this one needs to be on your list. It is a wonderful experience and a fantastic game from top to bottom. At number 13 comes a continuation from one of my favorite developers, Thunderful Games, formerly known as Steamworld Games. This is Steamworld Heist 2. Now, Steamworld Heist 1 is my favorite entry in the Steamworld series, or was, until this one released. I really love the idea of being able to have this kind of strategy game based on positioning and based on talents that your characters have, and going through these massive ships that you need to capture and find the different treasures in. And everything that Steamworld Heist 1 did, Steamworld Heist 2 improves upon and makes better in every conceivable way. There's now actual naval combat as you go around. You are in a legitimate ship that you control. The characters are excellent. There's a lot of throwbacks to previous Steamworld games. The combat is almost identical to what we experienced in the first Steamworld Heist game, but it feels more well-rounded and more polished this go-around. I am just so thankful that we got a sequel to the original Steamworld Heist, because it's just a lovely, wonderful title. Every Steamworld game is excellent. No matter which one you want to play, you're never going to be hurting for good gameplay experiences. But I love the Heist games. I think they're magnificent. Number 12 brings us what was one of my biggest surprises of the year. Despite the fact that I already talked about Penny's Big Breakaway on this countdown, I'm usually a hard sell on 3D platformers. If they're not from an established developer or someone that I am familiar with creating 3D platformers, I'm usually not going to be a huge fan, and it's not something I'm going to give a ton of time to. But with Bakaro, I saw something that was inherently charming with a lovely design, and it didn't hurt that it had a demo so I could try things out. And what I got was this just kind of magical, ridiculous, silly, and fun 3D platformer collectathon where you are playing a tanuki that can turn into different forms. You can shapeshift, and you have taiko drumsticks, and you're able to play the taiko drums to attack your enemies. And as you're going through, you're going to learn about all kinds of Japanese culture. It's tongue-in-cheek Japanese culture, to be fair. You're going to fight some really fun and memorable enemies. You're going to go through some incredibly designed levels, and you're just going to love it. I am truly impressed by this title, and I can't believe how well executed it is. It's just a really remarkable 3D platformer. And if you dig 3D platformer collectathons, this one needs to be in your repertoire because it is just a magnificent game overall. In at number 11 comes one of the most imaginative titles I have ever played in the Plucky Squire. I said when I initially reviewed this on an eShop Hidden Gems video that I didn't know if this was going to be my favorite game of the year, but it is by far my favorite concept of the year, and that holds true. Because the Plucky Squire does some really incredibly ambitious things and switches up your gameplay as you go through it with some really creative gameplay elements, all while working incredibly well and just being a charming overall title that I think a lot of people would really enjoy. You either have top-down kind of Zelda-like action, or when you go through a portal into the real world, you go into kind of a 3D platformer level where you need to kind of get back so you can get back into the storybook and complete the Plucky Squire's story. It's a really charming game, and it does some really incredible stuff by using words to kind of influence the environment, so you can pick them up when they're on a page and bring them somewhere else to kind of impact how things are happening on screen. It's a really, really clever game. The only reason I have it as low as I do on this countdown in at number 11 is because the Switch port, when I initially played it, had some issues and it was a little bit buggy. I think they've addressed some of that now and it's playing a lot better, but it is a fantastic game nonetheless, and something that I think a lot of people would enjoy if they gave it a shot. It's a wonderful, wonderful experience. Proving that you can't keep a good license down, in at number 10 comes Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Rita's Rewind. I love beat-em-ups. Beat-em-ups are one of my favorite genres, and I really appreciate it when we get quality beat-em-ups starring franchises that I love. And that isn't the case with Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, because I'm not a Power Rangers fan. So when you take a license that I have no formal or emotional attachment to, and you make something as remarkable as this, it is really, really worth taking note of. I love things like Shredder's Revenge. I'm very excited to play the G.I. Joe Cobra Brawler that's coming out soon. But I really wasn't interested in Rita's Rewind because, like I said, I don't have any kind of attachment to the Power Rangers. But seeing it in action and getting my code and being able to play it, I was absolutely blown away by not only the quality of the beat-em-up portions, but also the varying gameplay elements that go into play when you're controlling a Zord and when you have your battles against the bosses. It is a remarkable game, and it is so well executed and so well designed that I can't help but enjoy it. It makes me care about the Power Rangers, which is not something that happens terribly often. I love this game. If you dig beat-em-ups, this one needs to be checked out and needs to be experienced. I had to do a double take when I looked at the release date for Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown because I was convinced that this came out in like summer of 2022 for some reason. It was just something that I had missed, but no, it dropped January 18th of this year, and what we got was a reimagining of the Prince of Persia franchise and turning it into an unbelievable Metroidvania, like legitimately one of the best Metroidvanias that I have played in years. It is unbelievably unforgiving. It is such a difficult game and relies so heavily on not only exploration, but rhythm and just understanding the different aspects of the gameplay that are going to be in play as you go through it and mastering all the different skills that you have to train your character with. It's absolutely remarkable. It is such an incredible title and something that I can't get enough of and I can't speak highly enough about. One of my favorite experiences of the year was popping this in and just being absolutely transfixed with everything that this game did. It is so incredible. In at number 8 comes what I feel is the best original RPG of the year in Metaphor ReFantazio. I'm a sucker for anything that Atlas does, but I also recognize the fact that Atlas can sometimes get in its own way, and I think that's what happens here with Metaphor, because there are aspects of this game that I just look at and I go, yep, if I didn't know this was made by Atlas, I would know this is made by Atlas just by looking at it. Because sometimes the game just can't get out of its own way with exposition, and you are just stuck in a story loop, and you are getting the point driven into your head with a sledgehammer and a piece of rebar just to make sure that you understand what is going on in the story. When you get past stuff like that, though, you are met with absolutely incredible JRPG elements, fantastic gameplay, amazing combat, memorable characters, a wonderful plotline, and something that is truly original and truly different than anything that Atlas has ever done before. I love Atlas. I love their games. The Persona series is one of my favorites of all time. But Metaphor ReFantazio is going to give Persona a run for its money if they keep going with this series. This is a franchise that has legs. And if Atlas can get out of their own way and tell a little bit more of a streamlined story that isn't so just wide open and just expository and just dropping so much lore that you can't help but just kind of be lulled to sleep at times, they've got something really special here. Number 7 brings us what is probably the best remade RPG of the year with Dragon Quest III HD 2D. I was really intrigued by this one because I love anything of the HD 2D stuff that Enix and Square are doing, so getting a remake of what is probably the best Dragon Quest / Dragon Warrior game on the NES made me excited because I've never actually played this. This is the first time I've ever actually had a chance to step into the Dragon Quest universe in Dragon Quest III. And it's really remarkable because while I was expecting something that was a little clunky like the original Dragon Quest, what I got instead was something that's incredibly streamlined, does some really ambitious stuff with day and night cycles, adds classes and character swapping and the ability to recruit characters at any time. It's really, really remarkable, and you can see a lot of stuff that has become very common and very normal in future Dragon Quest iterations that really started here. Like, we got stuff introduced in Dragon Quest 1, but where it really refined itself and made itself essential started here with 3. This is a fantastic game. It's gorgeous to look at. It doesn't really reinvent the wheel. Like, there's nothing crazy going on here. It is a classic, grindy JRPG, so understand that, but it's really amazing. When I initially saw the concept for what would become our game in at number 6, Pepper Grinder, I really expected this to just be kind of a retake or kind of a remix on Drill Dozer, which released on the Game Boy Advance. And instead what I got is something that is kind of a loving nod to Drill Dozer, because, I mean, let's be honest, you don't really get a whole lot of drill-based combat in video games. But it does something that's incredibly cool and does something very different than what I expected, because this isn't just use your drill as weapon, it's a very creative and very deep physics-based platformer where you need to use your drill to launch yourself through soft ground and make yourself go further into the level. You need to use your drill to be able to break through ground to find hidden treasure, to pick up different weapons that can, maybe become a Gatling gun. It's a very challenging title and something that is just remarkably well executed. It's such a beautiful game too. Like, the look of the game is spectacular. It's a remarkable game and something that I did not expect, and Devolver just absolutely nailed it. I will be upfront and honest with you. I love all of the LEGO games. The LEGO games are 100% designed specifically for me to love, and I didn't really think we were ever going to get better at LEGO games when it comes to licensed LEGO games than what we got with DC Supervillains. But when LEGO Horizon Adventures got announced, for one, I was intrigued to see something from PlayStation Studios that wasn't MLB The Show on the Nintendo Switch or on the Xbox. And I was really curious to see what they were going to do here, because, I mean, Horizon Zero Dawn isn't like a laugh riot, funny haha game. It's pretty heavy, it's pretty serious, and Traveler's Tale and WB Games and Sony really leaned into the humor and really leaned in just to the absurd idea of creating something that represents the original Horizon game in LEGO form. And they didn't just stick to their laurels and try to make something that was classic LEGO fare here. It was retooled and reimagined and kind of revisited. Instead of just relying on it being a Destructo Fest and finding as many bits as you can and unlocking a zillion characters, it instead relied on building community and creating a village that all your characters can live in and finding different shops, and it became a really ambitious game. And I honestly think that not only is this game fantastic, like, it's a ton of fun, it's just a wonderful game from top to bottom, I think this is the best LEGO game ever made. I usually avoid putting remakes on this list, but I couldn't not include something like Dragon Quest III HD 2D on the list, and I certainly couldn't avoid putting the Marvel vs. Capcom Arcade Classics Fighting Collection on this list, because, oh my god, this is, like, legitimately, when this got announced, I'm still excited about this, and it's been out for 3 months now. When this originally got announced, I was blown away, first off, that we were even going to get this made, but we were getting this incredible collection of games featuring not only amazing fighting games like X-Men Children of the Atom, Marvel Superheroes, X-Men vs. Street Fighter, Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter, Marvel vs. Capcom, and MVC2, we also got an arcade beat-em-up in The Punisher, and I knew when this got announced and this was going to get released, we weren't only going to get these amazing games, which we did, and they're all fantastic, we also got an incredible collection of both music and gallery items for us to review, to look at, to enjoy, and devour. I love that they do these. I love that Capcom is releasing these unbelievable collections and just making something for fans to be able to enjoy their favorite series anytime and in any way they want. Any other year, and I think the game in at number 3, Balatro, would have been Game of the Year, but there were a couple of games that just finished ahead of it. Now, Balatro, when you just look at it, it ain't much to look at. It's not a looker of a game. It's very basic in its appearance. It's kind of ugly, dare I say it. Like, it's not the most intuitive interface. It's not the most beautiful looking game. But the gameplay, oh my lord, the gameplay sings. This game just sings. At its core, Balatro is poker. And there's jokers that are wild, and there's jokers that do different things. And the way the game really starts to get to you and really starts to take advantage of what it really flexes its muscles on is with those Joker cards that you're going to collect in every round. They all do different things. They will either do multipliers on different cards. They will deactivate certain cards to make them not worth any points. They will cause different things to happen in the game that will run your score up and make the game more strategy-based. And it's just a really remarkable deck builder of a game that does something that I've never really seen before. By taking something as simple as poker, it takes something that we're familiar with and that we all kind of understand and know what we're dealing with, and just completely changes everything about a game that we know. It's a really incredibly remarkable game, and it is something that I cannot speak highly enough of, and I cannot thank Lindsay from LL Cool Games enough for suggesting it to me, because it's just unbelievably fun. Our game at number 2, Astrobot, is a celebration. Not only is this the best 3D platformer of the year by leaps and bounds, like there's nothing that even comes close. It's a beautiful game to look at. Visually, it is stunning. The audio is incredible. The haptic feedback and the controls that take advantage of that remarkable PlayStation 5 controller that not enough developers really fully utilize is incredible. It is picture perfect. But where it really stands apart and really sets itself up for success is with the fact that it is, at its core, a celebration of PlayStation. Because this isn't just Astrobot's madcap adventure. Now, granted, that is happening. This is a game that looks at the history of the PlayStation franchise. Every piece of IP that has ever touched it that could call itself a PlayStation original, and it celebrates each and every one of those games while still making the character of Astrobot the central figure, the center of attention, and the absolute star of the show. Astrobot, for a long time, has been an incredible IP for PlayStation, and something that has been used as kind of an ambassador and kind of a measure of goodwill to introduce people to different features, different elements. We had Astro's Playroom back on PlayStation VR. We had Astrobot Rescue Mission on PlayStation 5. And now we have... That might be reversed. I might have the titles backwards. I apologize for that if I do. And now we have Astrobot, the full feature game released on the PS5. It is such an incredible experience. And don't let the cutesy look fool you. There's some challenge here, and there's some exploration that needs to happen, and you really need to have your thinking cap on at times, because there are certain levels that are a little bit tricky, and you need to look around to find all the different items. It's a wonderful experience. Any other year, this would have been number 1. But any other year didn't have our game at number 1, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. It does my heart really good to see something featuring Indiana Jones as a true quality video game experience. Now, I've loved pretty much every Indiana Jones adventure in video game form, to varying degrees. Now, there are some games out there featuring Indy that are probably things that I like more than most people do, just because I have such an affinity for the character, but Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is just remarkable from top to bottom. First off, shout out to Troy Baker for not only doing both a great Harrison Ford impression, but also making Indiana Jones his own character, because there's definitely elements of Harrison Ford impersonation happening here, but Troy decidedly leans into the character and makes him his own by using his own inflections and his own mannerisms and things like that. It's really remarkable. The gameplay in this is something that I was convinced wasn't going to work, because it's a first-person game, and I didn't think that was going to play out correctly, especially when they started saying that it would go into third-person perspective at times, like when you're using the whip to climb and things like that. I didn't expect that to work, but it's almost seamless. It's almost perfection in this game. The adventure itself is the best Indiana Jones adventure we have had in decades, in any medium. It is a beautiful game to look at, and it is such a easy way to get lost in this vast universe, in this vast world of what Indiana Jones represents, and this just amazing serialized adventure from the 1930s that wouldn't be out of place in a movie reel. It's a beautiful experience from top to bottom. And it's something where typically in games like this, I tend to just kind of dive into the main quest and then kind of work my way backwards from there if levels are open to complete side quests. But with indie, it's been something where I have been finding such an incredible universe, an incredible environment that was set up in this remarkable world that they have created and just embraced, that I am just going through and spending hours in each location trying to find as many secrets as possible. The Vatican is incredible. Giza is gorgeous. The Himalayas are magical. Going to the college, the first level, the first real level, of course, the tutorial is Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's the intro to Raiders. It's amazing. It's a perfect way to introduce you to how this game is going to control. I don't think I've ever seen a smarter tutorial level in video games. There's nothing about this game I dislike. Legitimately, I have enjoyed every second of playing this game. I have felt like I am Indiana Jones, like I have stepped into Henry Jones Jr.'s shoes, and I'm just on this incredible world-spanning adventure that just is amazing. It is by far my favorite game of the year. Nothing comes close. As much as I love Astrobot, it's not even the same zip code as Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. This is just a remarkable title from top to bottom, and everyone at Machine Games and Bethesda and Microsoft Game Studios should take a bow for this just remarkable piece of software and this fantastic love letter to one of the single greatest characters ever created in storytelling. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle was a game changer for me. It was absolutely something that just spoke to me on every level. First off, getting an Xbox exclusive is reason enough to celebrate. It's fantastic to be able to see that, even though it is coming to PlayStation in a couple of months. But to get something that was just exclusive to the Xbox, how cool is that? That's fantastic. Everything in the game works. The setup, the layout, the setting, the controls, the voice acting is spectacular. Everything in the game is amazing. I have not been this captivated by a video game in a long, long time. Let me know in the comments down below what your game of the year is. Let me know if you agree with my picks, if you think I'm an idiot. Hey, if you like today's video, please give it a thumbs up. The engagement helps the channel out. And if you're new here and you want to stick around, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Do a couple videos a week, and I'd love to have you stick around and check the channel out. Till next time, folks, I've been Jay. Appreciate you spending a little bit of time with me. Remember to play more games, stay square, and take care. I'll talk to you soon.